Right.
What, you prick?
All right, dog raping shit eater.
Yeah.
We might as well start it right there. I'm Dan Watson.
And he's a doggy raping shit eater. Welcome to the dirt.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight for your viewing and audio pleasure, we've got someone who is an absolute legend in this sport. Who's you might not have heard of him. You might, if you're from the States, you probably definitely will have heard of him. But his relationship with mountainboarding goes back a long, long way. And we're absolutely delighted. I speak on behalf of both me and Sloggs.
Yeah,
the good lady Sloggett. Yeah.
So
this is going to be an excellent one.
Get him in, man. Just fucking get him in.
He's admitting now. Here he comes. Nothing. There we go. Except my views have gone all weird now. I'm gonna pop us back in there. That's the one that we want. The money shot. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Don Baker, legendary rider from the US of A, and thankfully joining us this evening or this morning when it goes out in the UK, to talk everything, hopefully Mountainboard USA and the evolution of mountainboarding from its inception days. Don has been involved in mountainboarding, XT skateboarding,
since day fucking dot.
Since day dot. You know, if I can't do the introduction justice, Don. Basically, we're just going to have to sort of roll with it because I don't know enough about you. I think I speak for Sloggs and a lot of the UK certainly, that we don't know enough about you. We're all all the old school riders from the mid to early 2000s to the end of the 2000s period, and probably still today, all know of the Dirtheads shirts. They know how iconic they are. They know that some of the best riders in the world have all donned, no pun intended, a Dirtheads shirt. We've seen them all over the media, or the mountainboard media over the years. But for the rest of the world and the unknowledgeable, like I say, we'd like to learn a little bit about you, how Dirtheads came to be, and how yourself and the riders that you have ridden with over the years have come to influence what we now know and love as modern mountainboarding. So yeah, take it away. Give us a little introduction of what's your name and where you come from, says R. Graham with his From Blind to Date.
So I'm Don Baker, and I live in the Santa Cruz Mountains. That's in California, United States of America. So right here in my backyard, this is Boulder Creek. And there's a lot of history of mountainboarding right here in this small town of Boulder Creek. I started dirt boarding when I was 13. So 1979, I made a homemade board. Now, my style of dirt boarding didn't have wheels. So I would slide down very steep terrain. Actually, it was deer trails. It wasn't hiking trails, much steeper. Only animals would really utilize that path. And I saw the trail and I knew I had to make a board to ride down it. And that was the inception for me of riding a board down dirt. Did that throughout my high school years, let's say from 79 till 84. And then really got involved in surfing and the early days of snowboarding. And then in 1994, I started riding XT wheels, skateboard, modified, big risers, got the XT wheels. Man, I enjoyed that. I was just ripping up the hills, trails, anything I could find, mostly all by myself.
I was going to say, when you were just riding back in the 70s, there were you on your own then?
No, I had a couple friends from high school. And
Okay.
so one of them designed a board similar to mine. I had enough materials in my grandparents' backyard to make 2 complete boards. That included a sheet metal nose with a 4x4 cut at a 45-degree angle so I wouldn't stick in ruts. I had a round tail, leather straps for my bindings, and smooth paneling nailed onto the plywood for a slick bottom. Some of my other friends, they built some boards in wood shop and stuff, but didn't handle the mountain as well as mine.
I was going to say, because when we had Akoni on, he briefly mentioned about the Hawaiians inventing mountain boarding with their lava boards, the big
sledge ones,
the big sledges and stuff like that. And I'd seen that on some strange, whatever weird sports thing on TV years ago, and I thought, wow. But essentially, you've had that same vision there yourself, without any influence from anywhere else. Yeah.
No, I never saw it. That's what I feel a pioneer truly is.
Yeah.
Someone that just has a vision and makes it happen without any outside influence.
Indeed. But then you, like you say, the XT wheels started coming around in the mid 90s there, you say.
Yeah, I rode them 94, 95. Probably about 95, I actually got a snowboard mail order catalog. It was before, there was not a lot of online purchasing, the mid 90s, anything like that. And in this catalog was an MBS board. And I seen it. And prior, I purchased mine in 1996, but it took me about 6 months to save up money. It was about $400. I got 12-inch tractor treads as an option. I have the board in the background. A 152 steel frame board, 12-inch tractor treads, which I later gave to my great friend Dave. He rides those on one of his boards, those exact same tires that I gave Dave.
Stayfighter. I did make the assumption, but I just wanted to get the full name in. Now we can ping up a photo of him now. Bing bong.
And so, I was hooked once I got the pneumatic board. Then the XT board kind of went to the side. I rode that mountain board, and mine literally weighed about 40 pounds with the 12-inch tractor treads and steel frame. And I would carry that up the mountain. Sometimes I would run up the mountain, just so excited. And this is a big, steep mountain. It's called Eagle Rock Trail in Alum Rock Park. And that was the beginning. I got to dig out some old photos. I probably have an old image somewhere.
You did send me. Yeah, I think you did send me one of a frame board. You slashing some dirt on the frame board, and at least that one will go there right now.
Yeah, here's a little image of me jumping on that same frame board.
Very nice.
So I'll try to scan that and send that to you.
I have just, I've not received it yet. It's sitting in Nottingham waiting for me. An exit frame board, obviously a copy of that board. But like you say, back then we didn't get those. I think Exit and MBS sort of reached the UK market at around the same time, despite the fact that Exit was a copy of that board. But I'm looking forward to riding it. We used to have one at the centre that me and Sloggs used to ride at, and it was always good fun. And hammering down the hills on the frame board. Scary, really scary, because the springs are super close together, and no egg shocks or anything like that. And from memory, the frames of the feet posts of the bindings, they're really far apart, so you can't lock
the ergo
in.
bars.
Yeah,
ergo
there's no
bars.
ergo bars.
Yeah, that's what we called them.
The metal.
Yeah, the metal bindings. I actually rode those for quite a while. And I'll take you through a little evolution of the different boards, sponsors, and riding experience if we have time to do so.
We've definitely got time for some of that shit. This is what I'm here for.
If we have to break it into whether we record in one and then break it into two, then that's the people who enjoy that. But we would like a history lesson is basically what we're here for.
Yeah.
So right after I got my MBS board and I was riding, solo, climb mountains, I found a local shop that rented out the boards, and they had them for sales and for rental. So I talked to, it's called Extreme Adventures. My first sponsor. Actually I have that logo I hand painted on my MBS board. I'll show you guys a little closer look a little later. So I told them, I was preparing for the US championship. Okay. I hadn't competed yet, was riding a lot, felt confident with my skills. And so they sponsored me, and actually they included mountain boarding lessons as part of the services that they offered. So I quickly became a mountain board instructor. And then they did a trade show where they brought in all kinds of vendors. It was at the Santa Clara Convention Center. So it was a big trade show. And I ran the MBS booth and was promoting their mountain board lessons. And there was another mountain board company at the trade show. And that's when I was introduced to George Wyant with Terrorboard George. And boy, he quickly, I was amazed at his boards. They're still frame boards, but they were aluminum. And the trucks, they were channel trucks, but they were CNC'd aluminum. Everything was much more fine-tuned, lighter weight, and it just looked awesome. So I quickly was the first Terrorboard rider, team rider. and then, but actually at that trade show, I met amazing person and who became my partner with Dirtheads Mountainboarding. Kevin Delaney was the first one to sign up for my mountain board lesson. And so I definitely wanted to cover, how important just that trade show really was for me, and getting to meet some great people and the opportunities that opened up from Extreme Adventures, my first sponsor. We ended up teaching, dozens of lessons. We had groups, 20 plus riders on any given day. And over time, companies started sending us free boards to include in our demos, in our lessons, so that we had such a variety of equipment.
It's incredible. And this was still pre-championship. Obviously you had MBS. You say you were on the MBS stand there.
In their booth. And really, it wasn't an MBS. They had MBS boards, but it was an Extreme Adventures booth promoting their mountain board lessons.
Yeah.
Right.
I was the only mountain boarder in that booth.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
And I wasn't an MBS rider. I was a little too old to to quite make, their aggro team,
Yeah, which was at the time, mid-90s was a strange time in that it was, there were big budgets with companies, or certainly the late 90s through to early 2000s, there were big budgets, and the scene was, skateboarding was in its raw sort of aggro scene as well, or extreme sports as a whole in the late 90s was very sort of full on metal music and just absolute anarchy and
I had a reputation of pushing the levels. I got hurt a lot. I went on crazy jumps. Really, put my body through the ringer. I loved riding at night, especially when my friends were gathered around the campfire. Oh, I'd strap mag lights on my wrist guards and helmet, not so that I could see the terrain, but so my friends could see me blazing down the mountain in the dark and stuff. But wanted to take you guys back to my first competition. And actually leading up to that a little bit, I was at the Extreme Adventures shop, and I called MBS. I saw a advertisement for their Orbiter, and it was the first frameless board I had ever seen. I wanted to get my hands on that. I knew that was key. Mm-hmm. And so I called up MBS, and some guy answered. I'm like, hey, I'm pro rider. I'm a sponsored rider, Extreme Adventures here in California, and I'd like to order an Orbiter. And they were going to do it through the shop and everything. And so this guy, he had an attitude, right? Later on became, found out this was PT, Patrick Thomas. It was on the other side of the phone. And basically, the boards weren't for sale until after the contest. Right. So no one else could get their hands on those until after the U.S. Championship.
So everybody had to turn up on their steel frame boards.
Yeah. That's how that kind of worked out. But it just, it's those moments like PT, he don't recall that phone call. I'll never forget that conversation. So that's part of the history. And so I go to, actually, George Wyant, he was planning to go to the 1998 Dirtboard Championships in Southern California. It's at Snow Valley Ski Resort. It was the Dirt Duel Championships. Yeah. And I was going to try to go the 97 one, but I didn't find out until I didn't have enough money or couldn't get time off for work. So I missed the first one, but I was all in line to go in 98. George, he rented an RV, took me and my family, my daughters, we got the big room in the RV. He took real good care of us. We go there, and I thought I was a good rider until I tried going down a ski resort course, much different than fire roads, learning to ride berms and all that stuff. You had to do it really quick. I hadn't had any experience. So I quickly changed my registration from pro to amateur. I realized real quick I didn't deserve to be in the pro category. Ended up on a big frame, board, got first place in amateur big air. It's quite a surprise. I turned pro the next year, but I figured, okay, I got first place in amateur. Now we'll step it up in 1999.
I think it's expected, isn't it? I think if you...
not all riders. Not all riders. I'm going to keep that name to myself, but there's people that rip, and they probably stayed an amateur a little longer than they should have. But
for the glory.
So, boy, the story goes on. I mean, I could talk your guys' ears off till next week. What else would you like to hear? That's kind of the.
I tell you what. Whilst we're on the intro, I don't know whether you've watched any of the episodes, but obviously we have guests or listeners, watchers will put in some questions. From time to time. And obviously, coming in, I've got one here, which is kind of specific to dirtboarding, XT, and all-terrain skateboarding. And this one comes in from Instagram, and it's from @Dirtboard. He's actually got a couple of little bits here, but I haven't had much of a chance to scan through them. But he's this dirtboarding. If you don't follow on Instagram, that's all he covers is XT skateboarding and
keeping it alive.
Yeah, and
good. Very
so
good.
His questions, I should say, start with dirtboarding. He finds it considerably easy to go down, whether it be on a soft spot or sliding out. When bombing a hill, you can find yourself falling before you even know you're falling. So here's the question. What was your heaviest slam by dirtboarding? And to follow, how do you best deal with that injury? So that's probably the simplest part of his two-part question. What was your worst slam in XT?
Wow, there's quite a few. I've been knocked unconscious during race competition, like out for a while. I ragdolled it. I shot a jump, and it was part of the dual slalom course, and turned it into my own big air competition. That was at Donner Ski Ranch in Tahoe, California. That one was rough. That would be my worst crash for during a competition. Definitely just practicing and free riding. I've broken, I tore all my ligaments in my left knee, ACL, PCL, and the MCL.
Oh.
They got cadaver ligaments, put me together. Then I started wearing a leg brace, and in a skate park, I bailed going down, like, I guess they call it the hubba, or, one of those downhill sloped features, and I broke my leg at the bottom of the rigid knee brace. That one was pretty rough.
Yeah, I bet.
Leg was dangling. Yeah,
that made me feel a bit sick then. a bit of the stomach went a little flip on that one.
But I recovered. Actually, coming back from those injuries, each of the following years, I won 2 of my national championships titles. Part of it was the physical therapy and the commitment to get, competition riding ready.
Yeah.
And then I just was the underdog, comeback story. And so that's just part of, I don't regret any of the injuries and all the surgeries and everything. That's just part of the story.
You got to pay to play.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And his second part of that, his questions was, obviously you've now moved on to mountainboarding, but do you still think that there's a future for strapless XT skateboarding, or do you think that time has passed?
No, absolutely, because it all depends on the terrain that's around you and where you live. Right here in the Santa Cruz Mountains, another company was born, MPD Landboards. They started off as XT wheel only company. And I have a story of how I met them and how that all goes. We'll go into that. But, it's so easy. You grab an XT board. You don't have to have a lot of equipment. You hike up. You can go down single tracks way easier than a mountain board, because and especially you utilize the kicktail. You can do Yeah, you can do those quick, sharp turns, switchbacks and such on single track that you can't really ride on a conventional mountain board.
No, but you can ride on a B Unlimited in that way.
I haven't tried those, but those are pretty. I've mostly seen the skate park riding and stuff. Fan of all types of mountain boards, of course.
Well, that's just it, isn't it? They're a tool. There's a tool for every use, and like you say, completely dependent on terrain. And whether it be
and the style of riding.
Yeah.
Everybody should have their own personality and not try to emulate someone else. Just ride how you feel good about riding. That's what matters the most. That'll make you happy.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for indulging us on that first of the viewers' question.
The injuries, I may have kind of I never really had hard injuries on XT.
Yeah.
Those injuries were severe injuries on traditional mountain boardings. So
okay.
Actually, I really feel that the XTs were safer because it's easy to jump off.
You can always run them out, can't you?
Yeah.
Or at least try and run them out with your arm.
Yeah, you're not always in that situation on an XT where you're going quicker than you can run. I mean, like if you're bombing the hill, you're bombing the hill. You're locking and loading, whether you're on a mountain board, an XT, whatever board it is. If you're downhilling, that's what you're there to do. But as a general rule of thumb, their sort of average speed of an XT is far slower than a mountain board.
Absolutely. I just wanted to clarify that, just in case not all of those injuries happened on the XT. And I only rode XTs really for a much shorter window of time. Yeah.
So yeah, let's join back in the story there. Now we've certainly come out of the XT era and fully now into the mountain board era.
Did you get your orbiter?
Yes. Did you get your orbiter?
No, and actually that was okay because George Wyant, Terrorboard, he said he designed his first frameless board, which was the FL 116, basically the flame board. Oh, I got a couple of those in the background. One of my favorite boards of all time, and definitely. Had great sessions. The board was so stable. My first, I guess what they called unibody, mountain board, frameless board was a Terrorboard. So at that point, I was kind of over. And by that time, that's when really the Grasshopper, the Orbiter was really it was just the prelude to the Grasshopper, which was very popular. I didn't ride any, but I had friends that had them and stuff.
Yeah, I think we've seen a few of those in the UK. No, I think they had a Cricket, didn't they, as well? I think that was one that Joe Dixon was riding, but there was I'm pretty sure we see a few of those.
I think the Cricket might have been the smaller version of the Grasshopper.
Maybe
like it was like the more kid size, and then the adult was the Grasshopper. I believe so.
We'll stick the pictures up of these because I need my mind refreshing on them all as well. So we'll stick all the photos up of them that we've just mentioned there.
That's another half an hour's job for me to work into the edit. Cheers for that one.
You're welcome. Start pulling your finger out.
So I'd really like to talk about how Dirtheads started.
Yes, let's go with that.
Because I think we're at the time frame of my story where that's coming into play. So I mentioned I met Kevin Delaney at the trade show. He signed up for my mountain board lesson. Then he came to every mountain board lesson. He bought a board. And then at some point, we're like, you know what? All these people are paying. It was like $50 or $60 to do this mountain board lesson. And we're like, we could just do these gatherings, do this stuff for free. So we kind of bypassed extreme adventures. We kind of went our own way at that point. And we had a website, but it was very primitive. It was GeoCities. And we had sessions, dates, photos. So here in Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, San Francisco, South Bay Area, we were able to really organize some free ride sessions, demo days. And then, Kevin and I did that for 6 months or so. And then he knew, the internet was going big. We needed to get a name. We needed to make our company. And so he's like, okay, next week we're going to meet for pizza. You have some names and I'll have names. And we showed up and I didn't have anything. So he's like, well, what do you think about Dirtheads? And I go, yeah. So we didn't even have any other selections. There was no choice. He said it. We picked it. He got the URL. And we just started going from there.
Yeah. And so you're still with Terrorboards at this time?
Yeah, I was definitely riding Terrorboards for a few years, and that was going well. And then I broke a lot of boards. I was going through boards like crazy, and it got to the point where George just couldn't keep up with my my board needs. Right. I would call him up and he'd be all, "What do you need a board for?" And I go, "Duh, I got to ride." Like it was life or death for me. If I couldn't just sit idle, it's like, no, I had to be on a board. And that's when actually I started riding Earthboards, which those were disposable boards. And I was fine with that. I was really heavy into riding an indoor skate park. It was the Van skate park. This thing was epic. I still have, tug on my heart because they demolished it and built at Kohl's at the mall. But I loved that place. I spent many sessions, hours. It was open to 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just epic. And I would bring extra hubs, tubes, bindings. I had a locker and I had extra parts in there because I would blow out tubes or the hubs would just shatter, bend axles, and I'd switch out and wouldn't miss a session.
Yeah. Oh, man. Keen as a bean you sounded.
What's that?
You sounded like you were keen as a bean for it.
Oh, man, I was. And then in that skate park, I would do these alley-oop transfer errors. I'm not much of someone that spins and does a lot of tricks. I'm really old school, every variety of method air, and tail grabs. Okay, I got all that in my bag of tricks. But you start adding, transitions, skate parks, and I would alley-oop off of a quarter pipe and land on a separate sloped ramp and just go big. And ended up riding with Steve Caballero. He frequented the skate park all the time. And so he saw my lines. I had specific mountain board lines in the skate park. One of the evening sessions, he was up on the deck and he took off and I was right behind him. So I kicked and got my bindings. We're pumping through the entire course and he was doing my lines. And I was flowing right behind him. And to me, at a lot of skate sessions, there's not a lot of talking. Skaters are doing their own thing and tapping tails, as applause and all that. But there was the most respect that was, the compliment was him riding my lines and doing that session. So that was an epic moment in the skate park for me.
Fuck yeah, that's a fucking brilliant story.
I gotta say, he always seems one of the nicest guys in skateboarding. I gotta say, he comes across a super fun guy. Well, I'm certainly glad that people like him know what mountain boarding is. It's a shame that we've never managed to fully piggyback off of the sports, and but there's still time yet. There's still time yet for that.
Yeah, and I really put it on my shoulders to be the ambassador, at least here in California, and as far as I could spread. I have many media opportunities. I could go through. That list is almost as list as my as long as the contest results.
Yeah.
How many TV shows, magazines, newspapers, all that stuff. So I've had a lot of opportunities.
So in terms of years, what year are we talking when this was all happening?
The early 2000s to mid 2000s was probably the peak of my media stuff. Definitely the skate park riding, was these early 2000s. I was just like, I'd say for 10 years, I focused on only mountain boarding in order to really be at the top of the level I was able to be. I kind of stopped skateboarding. I didn't snowboard that much during that decade. I had to really focus on one thing.
And when you
plus
still
have a family and a career and work and everything.
And that was going to be my question. Were you still working at this time? Obviously you're getting parts and bits for either heavily discounted or for free off of the terror boards and stuff, but you're still having to pursue a career and a family.
I actually bought most of my stuff from Terrorboard. Yeah. I might have gotten a discount. I can't really recall. Although George has been very generous to me lately. He unloaded collect his stock and all kinds of stuff. So
I saw AJ Lawson had a Terrorboard. I'm not sure what model off the top of my head up for sale recently. And I'm sitting over here in the UK thinking, I could have that, but it would probably cost me about 3 times the value of it to ship it over.
To ship it, yeah. Well, I got a great story about AJ, and who's one of my favorite riders. You've
finally.
We like AJ. He spent quite a few summers over here.
Yeah.
And
my story is when he was just a Grom. He was I think 12 years old at the Iowa's, the 2002 Des Moines, Iowa National Championship. And I remember, we were one of the sponsors. We had a booth. I don't think we were really selling shirts because we just like to give them away. We have limited merchandise, that you could win it if you won the contest, or we give key riders, but Dirtheads hardly ever sold our wear, but his mom and him in hand, and I remember he was about 12 years old, just this little lad. They wanted a Dirthead shirt, they're like, oh, he just wanted a Dirthead shirt. So I did the big air jump. That was the first year I was in Masters, which I got first place in the big air. So when I landed, I came over to the booth, I ripped it off and gave him my Dirthead shirt. So
nice.
It was just one of those, moments that, it meant a lot to me. And then he grew up to be, amazing talent.
Yeah. And that would have, at a 12-year-old, that would have just stoked the sheer hell out of him, wouldn't it? He'd have been so happy with that.
Yeah, that was, and it's those little moments. I had great times, but it's all the relationships and the people I've met, that's really made mountain boarding great. Yeah.
So when you started the Dirtheads brand, the Dirtheads team, stuff like that, what was your goal with it? Where did you guys see?
Well, we knew one of our goals was not, we had been around enough that we saw companies go out of business. We knew we weren't going to make a mountain board. That we absolutely knew. There was no way. So we were going to organize sessions. We were going to sponsor contests and, send swag to help support. We assembled a team, because these were just amazing riders, and we wanted to help them get to more contests and just rip. And then my partner Kevin Delaney, he really liked art, so he would draw a lot of the images that were on our shirts. And we each got to share our own ideas and do whatever we wanted to do. Whether it failed, like Kevin wanted to make riding pants, and I knew, well, boy, that's going to be a tough order because he's a painter, I'm a roofer, we ain't got deep pockets, but let's go ahead and make some cool pants. I actually have one of the coolest pair of mountainboard pants, but we weren't going to make any money on this. And I kind of realized it, but we had the freedom to do whatever we felt like doing under Dirtheads and Mountainboarding. So a lot of it was to support the sport and hopefully make it grow and give MBS team some competitors, and I think that really helped because they weren't just dominant on the podium. No, they had to contend with Dirtheads.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting to see, like going back to my first sort of impressions of mountainboarding back in the early 2000s. The MBS team would come over and they'd be sporting Dirtheads shirts, and so the line to us guys in the UK is kind of a bit blurred, but as you say, there very definitely is. That was the aim as such. To be a contender not against, but everybody's against. But I make it sound like people aren't
healthy, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I started to make it sound as though that that there's an intense rivalry of aggression as opposed to
what it says you'll start beat about 20 years later.
Yeah.
No, the rivalry was with the hillbillies. Now that was an East Coast, West Coast rivalry. And they were
a classic American rivalry anyway.
Yeah.
In any genre, any sport, any music.
I love the the hillbillies, Ted Ledoux and I'm losing his name.
I had Ted Ledoux in my head, but I can't remember the other guy's name off the top of my head.
I just we just called him hillbilly because you had to watch out for him. In the Masters division, we had some rough racing, and they let us stretch the rules. There was contact. I didn't realize how dirty of a racer I was until I watched the videos back. Oh, I'm straight arming riders. I felt like they got in my personal space, and I just knock them down, and that was just part of border cross racing.
Well, at the end of the day, it's the first person to the bottom of the hill still standing. And I hear you completely there, Don, because if you're getting close, I want to be the one that stays standing.
Yeah, you want to hold your line, don't you? You want to hold your line against anyone else.
I've sent you some pictures. Like I've had riders fully come up on top of my board, and and I just stay strong. It was like I just fend off like crazy situations. There was one race at the U.S. Open where I dislocated my shoulder at the second berm. And this is like in the quarterfinals. Only in the top two advance. And I fell early on. I'm in last place. I pop my shoulder back into place, get on my board. I have a lot of room to make up. And all of a sudden, I passed up two people. They may have crashed, whatever it took. I advanced, and I ended up getting a medal that year. It was like one of these bronze ones and stuff. But, I never gave up. I don't care if I popped a shoulder, if I'm halfway down the course behind. And when it comes to racing, there's always hope. I beat a Coney Kama on this dual slalom race where he had me. He fell like 10 feet before the the finish line, and I was able to swoop by him, and it was just, it was one of those moments that I think some gremlin came out and grabbed his board. I mean, it looked like he fell for no reason. I've been very fortunate. There's a lot of riders way more skilled, talented than me, but on that any given day, anybody can win.
Yes,
yeah, definitely.
I've always put myself in that situation to have a chance. When they called my name, I would be in the starting gate.
Yeah, that's the difference, isn't it, between somebody that wants to be at the bottom, wants to be on the podium, wants to progress, in any way, shape, or form. You've got to have that attitude.
And you got to put in the work. There's plenty of people that are super talented, like gifted. Boy, things come easy and stuff, but then there's plenty of champions that have just worked their tail off. And stuff. So I'm definitely less of the natural born talent, more the hard work and blue collar mountain boarder.
So who was your Dirtheads sort of first lineup of team then? I'm cursing myself saying this because you're going to say these names and then I'm going to struggle to find all the photos.
Oh, no, but you probably won't because we kept it local at first. So it was really the Kent brothers, Rob and Jeff, very talented. They did well in the Grom divisions. They were podium. So and even out of state and when they different competitions. So we but then really when we kind of hooked up with the Colorado and Utah guys, that's when our team really solidified. So, of course, PT Patrick Thomas became a partner of Dirtheads. And then we were really able to have Dave Seifotter, who could be on the podium at any contest in any pro event, which he was. And then we got Nancy Ing. So we had a top female rider. Her and Carolyn were just going neck and neck for the most dominant U.S. women riders. Kevin, he wanted an international rider. I'm like, cool. So he had been in the military, in the Navy, and had been stationed in Japan. So he reached out. And we got Ken Yamamoto, who's a legend, at least in our eyes, and a Japanese OG rider. So he was Team Dirtheads. He was an early Team Dirtheads rider. And then we had Van DeWitt. We had Justin Dersham. So we had the 4-1 crew. Yeah. I believe it was the Fort Collins crew from Colorado, which was Brian Sinkar and Justin Dersham. They were absolute rippers. They're amazing people.
And a heavyweight crew you're forming there, isn't there?
Yeah, we could really hold our own against the top MBS guys. Oh, I can't leave out probably one of the most talented riders of our team was Austin Robbins. Most of you, everybody's heard of Leon Robbins. His big brother Austin was a beast. Yeah. And
it was always good to see them two on track together. There's something about sibling rivalry, especially when they're closely matched. Like, on any day, it could be either of them. Certainly, in my experience of the time seeing them race in the UK together, which wasn't massive.
Yeah, I still can't even wrap my head around how we had Austin Robbins, Dave Steve Fighter, and the list goes on and on of riders that just wanted to represent Dirtheads. Yeah. They liked what we were doing. We were having fun.
Which is a lot to do with what attracts people to shit like that. And if you're enjoying yourself, you've got a stupid grin on your face.
You couldn't wipe it off at any event. Even if I was broken, you can wipe the smile off my face,
Yeah. It's definitely worth a big shout out to Dave Stifider, because the guy has we've spoken over the years numerous times, both into bikes as well. And I don't think I've ever met him in the flesh either, but he's another chap that I'd love to get on here, because like yourself, his relationship with mountainboarding goes back so long, and he's still relevant today. You know, he's still hugely talented, still sends it in whatever he's doing in all areas of life. And just seems like a solid guy from all experience that I've ever had with him. So I'll throw out one more name. I don't want to not include somebody. Matt Hooper was one of our riders. Was pretty awesome. There was one race in Kansas, Chaos in Kansas. I think it was around 2006. Could get the years mixed up. I've had a lot of concussions over the years. Dirtheads, we were in the open division. Actually, you know, we had riders that podiumed in pro, women's, but in the open, I got first. Kevin Delaney with Dirtheads, he got second. That was his, I think, his only career podium. And then Matt Hooper got third. We took that, and it wasn't. They didn't have a masters division that year, so I jumped into the open. But I was racing. There was a heat. Kevin and we beat AJ Lawson and Halston Rhodes. That was a heavy heat, only because they took each other out. But whoever crosses the finish line. So, you know, there is a list of amazing riders that I've been able to pass up down the mountain. Now, I could never compete with them at a skill level, you know, of mountain boarding, but I got to beat them on a given day. Yeah, I think
that's border cross racing.
Yeah, not just. And there are certain tracks as well. If you know the tracks as well, sometimes it's not always best to pull out first. You know, if it like, I'm just thinking, I'm thinking back to Court Farm in the UK. Back in the day, was a heavy, steep 2 or 3 rollers into a massive, almost probably about 110, 120 degree right hand, a really deep berm. And of course, the first thing that everybody does is just pumps like crazy. But then you can end up going into that berm 4 at a time, you know, 4 abreast. And
there's no room.
I mean, that's the play. If you're at Court Farm in the day watching the border cross, that was the corner that you wanted to be stood on to be watching the racing. But like I say, if you happen to know that you're up against someone, you know, an equal seed, for example, you know that you're going to be hitting that pinch point, if you like, at the same time. So there is a certain amount of tactics that can be applied. But that said, you still need to get to the bottom of the hill first. And if everybody makes it round clean, then the race is on, isn't it?
Yeah, there's been some years, like, because I've had a chronic shoulder problem. A big part was doing those alley-oops at that skate park. This little kid on a skateboard tried to roll in when I was going to land on him. And I'm on my big mountain board. I'm a big guy. And I would have hurt him. So I had to bail mid-air, and I came down not even on the ramp and just jacked my shoulder up. And so I've been in races where I had basically half of a straitjacket. I sent you a photo of one of the big airs when I'm wearing that, and it's laced to the chest, so the arm cannot move.
I've got one myself, my friend. I've got one somewhere myself. Just like a piece of webbing between there, so it only allows you to.
Yeah, this one was canvas and it's leather laced, so there was zero movement. And
but quite kinky.
Yeah, I did one arm gate pulls and still got a medal in both big air and border cross that year, and only being able to pull out of the gate with one arm. And yeah, all kinds of race strategy. I definitely had a specific strategy, especially at all the US Opens.
Yeah.
I never took a practice run.
Okay.
My practice run was the time trials. I would walk that course, kick out every little pebble I didn't like in the way. I would just get in this Zen moment, but I never took myself out before it counted for the competition, because like half of the field would be broken up and messed up before the race even started. And so the time trial was my first run down the course. And then that was it for the day. I would wait till my next heat, the next morning, and then I would just let it all out. And so I did that multiple years. That's just kind of how I, free ride, I would do it different. But when it came to competition, I didn't want to take myself out during practice.
And I think you can, if you're an analytical person, you don't need to ride something necessarily over and over again. If you can look at any mistakes that you make on that run, if you run wide on your one time trial run, you don't necessarily need to go back up and hit that line that is there. You've just got to know that line is there and get to it on your race.
Yeah, and you can throw all that out as soon as three other riders are going down the course at the same time.
Yeah.
Because they all want the same fucking line.
So it takes a bit of luck. I definitely, enjoyed mountain boarding so much.
Definitely. So, and are you still mountain boarding to this day?
Yeah, I mostly ride pump tracks. Actually, I really like, there's some local BMX tracks. I like pump tracks. It's a good workout. It's fun. Mm-hmm. And it's really good cardio because you got to work it. And me being a heavy rider, actually, and I've always been good at pumping rollers. To generate speed. Like a lot of guys are really good gapping the rollers, because they're flying so fast. Well, I tend to generate a lot of speed by pumping the rollers on various, courses in the past. And so BMX pump tracks, I think the risk reward is pretty good for me, like back 28 years ago, or, my goal was to be able to mountain board till I was at least 60. So I got 5 more years to try to meet that goal. I think, I'm well on pace for that. And so I did find a paved one. Yeah, I found a paved one that's about an hour away from me. And so I haven't tried, I've mostly been riding dirt pump tracks, but I'm really anxious to try one that's paved. I think it'll be a little quicker, a little faster. A little
bit less rolling resistance on them.
Yeah.
Nice hard tires.
Yeah.
And if they're all baked in the sun as well, it'd be nice soft tires and hot tarmac. You'll be ripping around them.
Yeah.
So as we said, there's in the UK there has been a bit of a surgence of rhythm cross. I don't know if you've heard of it. The rhythm cross series started by Leon.
No, I think that's great. That's right up my alley. That's where I feel would be my comfort zone. Yeah, being 55 and mountain boarding.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Americans have been are quite reputable for their use of rollers and sort of rhythm sections within course design. Anyway, the UK and the Europeans tend to favour steeper courses than the US. But yeah, so it's all. But whenever an American comes to the UK and then pumps the features in the UK that we have got, it's like, they fly.
And I weigh, I'm way over 200 pounds. So you get that momentum going. I think, we had a team. It was just more for fun, team heavy. Me and Ted Ledoux. There might have been a couple other riders that kind of fit into that weight category. But yeah, gravity, was a good thing for us. And I think some of the downhill racing, big guys can ride fast.
Without a doubt, definitely helps. And the longer limbs as well. They've not got quite the low center of gravity that the shorter guys have, maybe. but so yeah, oh crikey, we're an hour in already, guys.
Can we start looking at boards behind? Can we soon?
Yeah.
I can see them all there. And I'm like, I don't recognize that. I don't recognize that either. What the fuck is
I
that?
probably do. I don't know if I should move the camera or if I should bring the board right here. What do you think would be best?
You said you're on the phone, aren't you?
Yeah.
So why not utilize its mobile ability, and I hope that the reception and that stays true. But can I, before we go into that, which I'm obviously super keen to as well, I just wanted to give a little introduction into this, because you've stated, and I've heard of before, about your desire to have or have a mountain board museum of some description in the future.
When I no longer work, just to pass my time in my elder years.
Excellent. When do you plan on retiring?
At least I'm going to work at least another 10 years.
Okay, so I've got 10 years to save up to come out to Silicon
And then
Valley.
we have a roadside museum.
Yes.
Yeah, in downtown Boulder Creek. I'm hoping that the community, embraces the idea and stuff. Maybe leases me a space for pennies or something,
Let's hope so. I hope so. That would be incredible. It'd certainly be another world first. So yeah, take us around some of your
with these boards
artifacts.
Don't just assume we're going to know what board they are. So can you let us know each one of them? Just give us a shout out on what make and model it is, if you remember.
Because
I'll try my best.
Because in the UK we didn't see a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. No, let me get mobile here a little bit. So I definitely want to show my first one. Let's see. So this one is the MBS 152 framed board. The Extreme Adventures model. So you can see the big ergo bars. Of course, I've moved so many times that some of my boards, a lot of my collection doesn't have the trucks or wheels. I have bins full of trucks and wheels.
Ready for the museum.
Yeah. And
we still keep them, even I still keep old
complete
trucks.
a lot. Yeah. So here's a sweet one. And some of this stuff, I'm going to go back and forth a little bit. This here is a George Wyant signature Terraboard blank. So this one's
undrilled. Is it drilled for trucks?
Yeah,
but no bindings.
No bindings, no drills, just the mounting holes for the trucks.
Lush.
So that one's
I
a
love
beauty.
that shape of the top of the deck of that. It's almost like the Hosoi hammerhead shape on the top.
Yeah, so here's an Earthboard. You know what? This is easier for me. I'm going to bring the boards here just because it's hard for me to hold the camera and show the board. So
Very
this
nice.
is an Earthboard. This one is just like a little Grom size. So this is the ones my kids would ride. Taught my children to ride on board like this.
Now,
this is good, Dan, isn't it?
We have to come back to Earthboards in a bit.
Okay. Now this one is the real kiddie board. Now I don't know if many people have seen this one's like just a toy board, but I think my kids were 4 years old when they would mountain board down the grass hill on this. So
there was a Hot Wheels one came about a few years ago of a similar style with the plastic wheels in the UK, but I assume
it's very similar to that. Now, this one, let's see, how is that showing up? All right.
Yeah.
This is the Terrorboard. This is the big framed one. This is the one
the aluminium frame.
Similar to it. I have it. Yeah. And it's got sweet trucks. Let's see. Yeah, pretty nice trucks. So this here's the 145.
Is that on a bearing in there? The kingpin, is that on a bearing?
Yeah. Yeah. The kingpin is on a bearing. You are correct.
Nice. Well spotted, Dan. Oh yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah. No, so all of the Terrorboard took everything to a different level compared to the steel framed MBS. Everything was machined, more precision bearings. It was really good. Here's a really nice one that I love. It's a signature PT, the Patrick Thomas Terrorboard. So again, sorry to move you guys around.
No, not at all.
Don't be. I'm having fun.
So this one also hasn't been drilled for bindings.
Yeah.
I got it for $99 on eBay, and it's beautiful. Van DeWitt did the artwork on this one. It's
Very
just
cool.
spectacular. This is one of my favorites.
What trucks are on those? They've got the kingpin is sorry, the
no, you're right. It's a reverse kingpin.
Yeah.
And I have there's a story that goes along with that.
Excellent.
I influenced George to design this skate style truck. He called it the shock truck. It's kind of written there. So I got to meet Randall, who's a skateboard truck designer.
Yep.
Jeff Parker, one of our team riders. Which I shouldn't have left him out. He does all our shirts and he's a ripper. Jeff Parker.
Big up the Jeff Parker.
I keep forgetting. So I can't forget Jeff Parker. But he hooked me up with Randall. So I went to, he lives in Palo Alto, went to his house. Cliff Coleman was there. So I got to meet the legend, Cliff Coleman. Randall not only showed me all his wild luge and skateboarding collection and all this cool stuff, he gave me a whole bunch of Randall R2, the skateboard trucks, reverse kingpin. And these were pretty much, brand new at the time. So I hooked up all my team riders, and then George, wanted a pair. So I told him, and he used that as an example how to design a reverse kingpin mountain board truck. So that's a little story of my influence on some of these different mountainboarding, items. Here's a couple more Terrorboards. There's the flame one. This one's beautiful.
So what year are we talking on that one there? I'm trying to.
Yeah, I started riding this one in 99. 1999.
Cool. And you're still quite close to your springs in there. We've not.
It's got the same. It's the same truck except for a base plate. Let's see. Yeah, the base plate was kind of weak. I broke a lot of those base plates.
Yeah.
Then down here's another different Terrorboard. Then I got two of the Leon Robbins models.
Yeah, I got one of them to my right.
I got shaky hands. That's part of growing old.
I have to say, I really enjoyed those like reverse cap composite models that MBS went through for a while. but I think they're here we go. Yeah. there's some, so
Let's see.
there's so many different
these
generations.
are more of my
of
recent
decks on
riding
as well.
boards.
Yeah.
So that one's just a knockoff deck. Both the silver and blue one are no brand. And actually, that's why I like to ride. I like to ride boards that I just come across that are rare.
Yeah.
And the blue one, I actually traded on eBay. The guy wanted a spittoon. I purchased a bronze spittoon, and it was a complete board. It had old trucks and different, components on it. But I got the blue board for a spittoon.
Oh, incredible.
So this one is my brake board. Let's see.
Oh, yeah, the hyper deck.
Yeah. So
I
I
got
one
some
of
discs
those.
on there,
I like to play
hydraulic
around.
discs.
And then
And
I
no
got
heel straps.
no, although I am a big fan of heel straps. I have them on this board.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do wear foot diapers. Yep. And I'm, so that's just a quick rundown. I mean, I have a lot more in my collection. I just wanted to bring out some for today.
Well, you've put a smile on two old men's faces with that display. We enjoyed that.
I have a question for the brake board there.
Yeah.
Those are hydraulic discs you're running on the back of that.
They're not hydraulic.
No.
So there
but
are
they
discs.
are discs.
Yeah, they're just not hydraulic.
Okay. Because the
you want
standard.
a closer look?
Yeah, please, if that's all right.
Yeah,
because I've never seen discs been put on a standard channel truck.
So
Okay, yeah.
yeah, it's just cable.
Is
driven.
that custom? You've custom made those mounts for that?
No, I bought this all fully assembled. I think
The front door.
another eBay thing. It was about $199. I got this whole thing complete. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, it
I
is.
like it. It was a good score.
Yeah, it was. Definitely.
Yeah, there was a time that I was, just adding to my collection.
Right.
I had time to search the internet, and
I can say the wife can't hear. But I've bought 3 boards in the last month.
And all of them to hang on the wall.
And all of them are oddities, that not a lot of people want, and they're not expensive either.
No.
And like the most recent of which, £15. What's that in dollars? Probably about $12.
Yeah.
It's got a board bag with it. It's a ride the hill board, which it's essentially a knockoff Soul 16. Soul 16.
Okay.
That sort of era.
Yeah.
But it was the company Ride the Hill. They made a fleet of them as beginner boards, but cheap.
Introduction
Chinese knockoff boards, essentially. And it has no value, but to me, that board started its life at that center that I was involved with. So it has a massive value to me, although it's pocket change to everyone else. But hey,
I got one more.
Yeah.
Hold on real quick.
Dan, this is brilliant.
Okay. This one is the Comp 6.
Yes.
Okay, these ones are pretty hard to find in good shape. It's like a Grom's Ripper board.
Yeah.
Because it's a little smaller. I really like the Comp 6.
And the construction of those decks is really strong and good, providing it doesn't have a like a side impact on those walls.
Yeah,
they're really good decks. They were the deck of choice for the sort of under 14s in the UK in the mid 2000s. If you was on one of those, you
11, 12, 13, 14-year-old rippers, they'd have one of them under their feet.
Oh, yeah. Incredible boards.
And since it's too small for me, mine's in good shape.
I noticed that there was some big picture frame photograph over on the side there. Was that anything to do with mountainboarding, or was that not? If it's not, then
it is. Yeah. So it's my collection. Let's see. Well, it's a whole collage of different images.
Give me one moment, Don. Just what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and change the view here so that you get the full screen on.
What about my lovely face?
Oh. We don't need yours. Right. So,
can you do it?
When you start speaking, it will flip to you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and that's still hard for me to get it, but basically a whole collage of different. These were all media images from newspapers and magazines. Some are at Slick Rock, Utah. We had different competitions, Donner Ski Ranch, the cover of magazines, all kinds of different ones, crashing, local newspapers. So, like I was just thinking today, when my time comes, my family, they don't have to assemble a bunch of pictures for me for a memorial. I've already done the work for
them. It's you've just done yourself and mountain-boarding so proud with this, with your efforts here, because all of that will. It's different nowadays. You've got modern media. Once something goes on the internet, it's pretty much on there, and until the internet goes poof. But failing that happening, you've done so well to keep all this memorabilia and to keep it so well documented and fresh and in working order, because without people like yourself, it can easily be forgotten. I think I know we don't do necessarily a good job of getting all the facts right on the dirt. For me and Sloggs, because we're a pair of idiots.
We're mountain
fun.
That's it. We're having fun, but hopefully, this won't go anywhere, and maybe it'll stoke new people who come into it. And when we're old and grey and decrepit, we can look back on these moments and have it'll jog memories for us, and to have. Like you say, if there was ever a mountain board museum put out, I mean, that's a trip for me worth taking, without a doubt.
I gotta show you the cover of the magazine that I was. This was the off-road boarding magazine cover.
Excellent.
So this one.
What's the date on that?
Very stoked on that. What was that?
What's the date on it?
Okay, this one is April 2002.
2002.
So
who am I saying?
This
Dave
was
Sensonian.
volume 2, number 2.
Excellent.
Yeah. So stoked on that one. Getting the cover shot. Then one of the other big. I got this image. This was a double page spread in a magazine. So this one.
That looks a great shot from here with the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one is actually Men's Fitness magazine.
In Men's Fitness?
Yeah. Out of all the people, I'm not like really fit.
With the physique of a gladiator.
Yeah, somewhere in here there was the page. Let's see if here it is in the magazine.
That's mental.
But so I just wanted to show you guys a couple of those too. That was there's other ones in Off-Road and Trucking magazine. We did a photo shoot, me and Tara George in Slick Rock, Moab, Utah. So that was something else. I took bail so hard, and you guys have probably heard about Moab and Bartlett's Wash and Slick Rock and stuff. I fell so hard that all my extremities went numb. I got a stinger hitting that rock that my hands and feet were numb. That was a pretty hard bail. And I had a lot of gear on.
I gotta say, it's one of those places that I am just besotted with every time any photo of that area of the world. It seems the California, Nevada, Colorado, that triangle there, just the terrain looks so good there
and big.
Yeah,
it's of epic proportions. It's just like
there's epic terrain. I've been fortunate to travel around and ride a lot of stuff just in the U.S. But my favorite event was the Dirtheads Hawaii Bash. That one's all time. I mean, I know the riders that went out there. It had to be in one of their top all time riding events. The dirt in Hawaii, it's almost like it's so soft and granular. It's like sugar. This dirt it even tastes good. Man, I love that dirt. Man, and I can't wait to go back. That's why, I was hoping to do it 20 years later. We're making it happen 21 years later. But this year is the 25th year of Dirtheads. So we started.
Congratulations.
It's 25 years that Dirtheads has been rolling.
Congratulations. Well, if you happen to do a 25th anniversary Dirtheads t-shirt run or anything, you let me know and I'll wire you the money, including the postage and taxation. Do us 2, and then we won't have to pay it twice.
Well, I still have a couple of the 20-year anniversary ones, but we're not doing a 25th run on the shirt. But the next shirt will be awesome, and it will be released when we do the Dirtheads Hawaii Bash.
So that actually was a question, a prompt, if you will, from a Coney, from his message. One of the every time I say this, I cannot stop myself from thinking breeders' wives. And I don't know, it's something to do with my teen years, I think. Maybe breeders' wives might not be a thing in America. I don't know.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
In many years ago, in porn mags.
Go on, Dan.
Okay. In porn mags, you'd have the readers' wives section, and every time I think the listeners' questions, all that wants to come out is readers' wives.
Maybe you need to change it to riders' wives.
Riders' wives. Yeah. We've got a question on video here, and this is coming from a regular contributor by the name of Rhys Crilley. I
recognize the name.
Yep, I think he's made it stateside at some point. I think, I don't know, pass. But anyway, I'll play you his video, and let me make sure I'm turned up volume here. Into full screen there.
Hey Don, Rhys from BFC here. Just want to say a massive thank you for sending me a t-shirt when I was about 14 years old. I wore it to death. I think I even wore it to a wedding that I went to. So Dirtheads represent. I guess my question for you is, what is unique about the US mountain board scene? Cheers.
There you go. Actually, he did when I put that you were coming up on, he was straight on it. Oh yes, I was so excited for this one. And retold me the story of you sending him over a Dirtheads, because it has to be said, Rhys is well up in the hierarchy of mountain geekery, if you like. We're all
we tried to send out in different countries key people get the Dirthead stuff. But back to his question, what makes the US either unique or different for the mountain boarding? And it's hard to put a finger on that. The one thing is our country's so vast, it's really hard to get together and gather. It takes a big effort, going across the states. And the family is so tight knit. And I'm sure it's like that with all the other international events. The farther you've traveled to attend an event, the more welcome, and it is. And boy, there's so many other board sports that ain't the case. I've surfed in a lot of heavily localized spots. Even in the early days of snowboarding, there's, if you weren't the crew from that ski resort, you were frowned upon. Even
very territorial.
Yeah. And so mountainboarding's like the opposite of that. But I know it's not just in the States, that's worldwide. And so I think, in the States, maybe we have quite a variety of terrain, and, everybody rides what's in their environment, what they're used to. And then they share that with other riders. So here in the States, we do have had a big variety, and different people's styles have, people come together and get to experience that.
I definitely agree with your statement about there being no animosity, no matter where you're from, who you are, what race, color, creed, interest or anything. Mountain boarding has the most colorful characters, certainly, in my experience.
Quite heavily loaded with them as well.
Yeah, really heavily loaded with colorful characters. Everybody is unique in one way or another, but there's never a bad seed in mountain boarding, in my experience. That said, being the historical man that you are, and you brought up a board there earlier, after our episode with Akoni, I had a message from ex-ATBA UK chairman, Joe Jones.
Never heard of her.
And he wondered if he was too late, which obviously he was to us. But I wondered if you might have a little bit of insight. He mentioned that Earthboard fell due to an FBI investigation into stock selling and share selling involving Van Shoe Company, and the guy made it onto the FBI wanted list. He was living in a beachfront hotel, and I'd looked online, and that sure enough, there's a case where the founder or the owner of Earthboards had this case against him for all this stuff. And obviously Earthboards did fold at some point in time, and I'm assuming, putting two and two together, that it was because of this case. Did that have an effect on the American scene in any way? Because it kind of, obviously I was riding at that time, but I didn't hear of this event until literally in the last year. And I don't know of many people that did really over here.
Yeah, I don't really think it impacted mountain in the US really at all. It was an unfortunate, and I heard definitely there may have been retired or older people that invested that lost money, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So they hooked me up with boards, and for as long as as it did, I didn't really even have, I don't think, any direct connection.
Mm-hmm.
But they did influence, especially Southern California, mountainboarding. And there's a crew, and I wanted to give a shout out. And they really were instrumental in U.S. mountainboarding, and amazing riders came out of the crew. But Hooterville, had to mention Hooterville. It's out in San Diego. The Jones brothers, their parents let them build crazy terrain park, and they were really stoked. Dirtheads did a pilgrimage. We brought all our riders. They threw a big party, live bands. Nate Harrison grade, the 7 mile downhill, was not far away. But their jumps, they had big gap jumps, and they would throw chunks of big granite in the between. They just wanted to intimidate riders. When you showed up, like, you had to go big, or and they could. Those riders, they could, and and so we had a good connection with the Hooterville. We even hooked them up with a Dirtheads banner we left for them, and good times. Wes, one of their top riders, I think he had an Earthboard Pro model, was out of there. Definitely, Ted and Scotty Jones were rippers, and then Chris was the downhill master on the 7 mile downhill. Mm-hmm. So the shout out. So, and Brad Barron, he was part of their crew also. I'm forgetting people, but forgive me.
You're forgiven. You're forgiven. It's so hard being on that side of the seat, on that side of the screen, having to recall everything all the time, and you're doing an amazing job, Don. You really are. Hooterville
was real important, so I didn't want to forget them.
Good. Going back to your Dirtheads bash in Hawaii, we mentioned it there that and obviously we got onto a Coney, and then we diversed a little bit off of the original track. But he mentioned about coming over to Hawaii this year for the Dirtheads bash, and then I noticed, sure enough, I saw the Dirtheads bash group on Facebook come up, and then the subsequent delay. Obviously, my immediate thinking was, oh crikey, at least that's not Hawaii and Australia in the same year. Because I've struggled to find money to do one of them, let alone both of them in a year. But
that's a big part of, it was a tough decision. Definitely the plunger, Jason Ciccarelli from Maui, great rider, man. Me and him, we had some battles. Well, we didn't have battles in the Masters because we were injured every other year, but he did tear me up in a skate park competition. The dude's amazing. He's going to be the host of the Maui leg of the Dirtheads Hawaii bash. And he's disappointed, but I want it to be accessible to as many people as possible. And so it's a tough decision putting it off a year, but I had to.
If it goes ahead next year, would you welcome two old fogies from the UK to come along and have a session with you?
Oh yeah, no, you wouldn't want to miss it, because literally the first one was epic all time, and we did some amazing stuff. I did cave diving with a Coney. Got to see him carry boulders on the bottom of the ocean. I mean, Coney's Aquaman. He's just a ripping mountainboarder, but what a ocean athlete he is too. Just had a wonderful time. All the crew. We had riders from Utah, Colorado, definitely California, and then all the different outer island riders came over, to Oahu. So now I want to take it some different islands. We want to go to Maui and ride with Ollie on Lanai, which will be a real treat.
Oh yeah.
Not many people get to go to Lanai, and then these guys have it all dialed in. So what Akoni's got planned, what the riding terrain, that the plunger is. I'm a little scared for some of that because he's likes to push everybody's level.
No, what Akoni does. No, he's not that sort of guy.
So you don't want to miss it. I'm looking into a campground that has different levels of either tent camping, car spots, tent cabins, and different stuff. So what makes it really unique is if people can really be together even outside of just the riding experience. So I'm trying to incorporate that, at least on Maui. And I think there'll be some beach camping on Lanai too.
I'll start looking at selling a kidney now then.
Another one.
You can survive on no kidneys, can't you? One's going to Australia, one's going to Hawaii now.
Well, it's always been hard for me to go to more than one epic trip a year, over the years. So it's hard decisions. You got to make choices, and
especially with families, bloody expensive families. If I was a single man, I could afford it all. If I just had myself to worry about.
Oh, I got grandchildren. I have a child in college, one in high school. I have 3 grandchildren. I got a big family.
Well, at least you get the joy of that, because that is the plus side to having a family, is the big joy, isn't it?
Yeah, especially being a grandpa. You can't beat that.
I bet. And well, you get to give it back at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, you get all love, all good. And
feed it sugar, wind it up, pass it back.
Well, I mean, like I say, I would be absolutely chomping at the bit to go to Hawaii. I play the ukulele, and my mother and my brother, my late mother and my brother have both been out there together and brought me back at one of my ukuleles from there, and I'm chomping at the bit, not only to go and ride, but also to see
experience paradise. You know?
Exactly.
I love the surf. I love snorkeling. Swimming with the turtles and all that. It's just beautiful.
I bet. They don't make a Disney movie out of the place for no reason, do they?
No, but
many Disney movies.
Hawaii Bash was even better than the Disney movie. We had a crazy time.
Well, I can't think of anything more that I can, rattle off that I have lined up question-wise for you. I'm sure Slogget's got a 10 set.
I certainly have.
But before we
I've got a question before we even get to a 10 set.
Come on then.
I just wanted to ask you about electric mountain boards. Your thoughts, and have you had a go on them yet?
I haven't had a go on them yet. I'm intrigued. I have a lot of friends that, I just feel like I'm not old enough to jump on an electric board yet. I'm enjoying just working the board, but it all depends on where you live. I got beautiful mountains. I got terrain. The gravity's working fine. I guess, if I lived, heck, even though I enjoyed the track in Kansas, there's some flat lands and parts of the country or the world where an electric board is going to be a blast, and even on those pump tracks, and I got to work really hard. Boy, I watch those videos and that sure looks, enticing. But
Don, the place where they come into play is not on the short terrain or in the downhill necessarily. It's the uphill. as well. It sounds weird. Uphill mountain boarding.
Yeah.
Requires there are different skills
discipline
to be learned. There's a whole new way of maneuvering these boards in different environments, both downhill and uphill and on the flat. You know, they are incredible. I mean, we're saying it, we're both avid fans of them. Thankfully, we both still ride due to the powers of nature as well. But you know, to go out from your front doorstep, I can see you've got a gradient behind you. You have that on your doorstep. But even so, to go up the hill before you come down, or to do a 10-15 mile loop without having to push, to have the ability to wind it in,
unclip
without having to unclip, with it, to have that brake, if you like, to it's not even a brake, it's because it's an electric thing,
Control
but
your acceleration,
control your acceleration and descent without having to worry about, you know, like you say, there is that element of, I want to keep fit, I want to keep my body agile and doing what I'm doing, which is great for normal mountain boards. But to go on an adventure, they really are adventure boards, because you can take a packed lunch, you know, take your flask and your sandwiches and just bugger off for a day. Geez, if you plan a route and stop somewhere where you can get another charge, you can double your time. I think we've done 50 plus miles in one day, you know, with only us.
And that's a great way to explore, to find new terrain to ride. Because
and then take your downhill board back there. And ride it naturally.
And everything. Because we spent a lot of time looking for riding spots, you know, being pioneers of the sport. And that was part of some of the most fun part, was searching to find the epic riding spot and the adventure of that. And so I could see these electric boards playing into that, you know, and I'm sure at some point, you know, I'll get on one and I'll ride it, and I'll probably be hooked.
Well, Coney's got one, so you'll have to borrow his for a ride.
Yeah, I got some friends, and definitely, you know, I have a close friend that I do a lot of downhill skateboarding with. He's had a site that's wacky boards. His name's Sahung Chang. He is the expert of all kinds of wacky boards and electric boards and stuff. So
I like the sound of him.
He's I've done some downhill skateboarding with a crew of friends. We've snuck into parking garages, we've done races, and actually one of them was really crazy. The San Jose airport, they built a brand new structure, parking garage structure. We snuck in right when the construction was complete at this airport and bombed the parking garage. So that's on a skateboarding note. I diverse a little bit, but
that's fine.
It was a fun adventure.
I wanted to. I've just thought of another question, and it was in relation to one of the photos that you sent me, Don. But it was mentioned by Dave Sci-Fi in his comments there, and he's talked about Sand Hill and Nate Harrison grade. Sand Hill being these. There was a picture you sent with quite a lot of lumps and bumps.
That big air, my best air I've ever done.
That's the one.
History.
But all that, it looks quite a strange terrain in the background. I'm not sure what. That wasn't part of the regular course. The jump was actually a berm, right? And so we had many years of races there annually, probably at least 4.
super fun. It's here in the Bay Area. It wasn't far from us. And we had riders come out. We had some really good times. That one day I eyed this berm and I knew I had to just jump at it. It was a part of the course where I could have a lot of speed and I could just fly off the berm. So I put a little rock as a marker. I'm like, okay, this is my takeoff zone. And I only did one attempt. I did it once. I stuck the landing completely on flat and the board rolled about a tire's worth before it just came to a dead stop. And my friends were there. Oh, it was just epic. I just visualized it and then just did it. And everything went perfect. So that was just a BMX track. And there was piles of dirt, that the people had piled up. So it looked odd in the image, but it was just going off a giant berm onto flat, it was just because I wanted to. I felt like I could do it.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned, Nate Harrison grade. So I mentioned that a little bit as the Hooterville because it's in San Diego County. But doing a 7-mile downhill, was more than I was, I did it and I only did that run twice. I think we did one practice run the evening before, which actually I felt like I did better on my practice run than during the actual contest.
How fast were you getting down that course?
Well, I'd have to do the math. I don't have a calculator ahead of me. I did it in 25 minutes. The top, Cody, I think, did it in 19. So the top riders were right in that 20-minute range.
I was at the whipping along 25. For 7 miles.
Yeah, no, Cody
20 minutes.
Yeah, just under that. And then, and I think I can't remember if I got a flat tire. I might have switched out a flat tire. I had a backpack. I had, an extra rim tire. When you're on that kind of a race, you throw an extra tire and it's rocky, rough, super fun. It was part of the Guinness Book of World Records for the longest mountain board race.
And do you think that'd ever be reconstructed in the modern day, or is the desire, the scene too small now for that sort of thing? Or
all it takes is really someone down in that area to be able to organize it.
Yeah.
So Brad Barron was the architect of all the races out there. He also instructed a lot, and which I've instructed. Boy, over 1,000 people have been on a mountain board their first time because I had an opportunity to share that and instruct people with.
And that in itself is it's a wonderful feeling that I look back on our time as instructors. It was just joyous.
It was rewarding. It was very rewarding in a sense.
Smiles on the people's faces when they're making their first turns, or the first time they do a tight J turn power slide, and the wheels go, and then they look back up at the hill, and there's that connection there. And that it can't be bottled. It can't be bottled, and I only have to think about it, and even now, and it's it just stokes me so hard. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, I'll have to send you a photo. I was instructing at a scout reservation, all kinds of Boy Scouts, and they would go through troops and probably over 100 scouts each day. And one of them made the cover of Boys Life magazine, Mountainboarding. It was part of my program. That was his first time ever on a mountain board, and they captured the moment. I'll have to send you a digital image of that. I don't have the magazine handy, but I was very proud, even though I wasn't on the magazine. It was one of my students and stuff.
Without a doubt. I it would be for me as well. It would be for me. I know. I found Sloggs was mentioned in an article a little while ago about talks. Was it the Times or something like that in the UK? I found
Oh,
that
it was
article.
a Guardian, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't even know that it'd been mentioned in this magazine, but it was all about a kid going through his lesson, and Sloggs was the teacher. So I didn't even know it existed.
15 years later, we found the article, didn't we?
Yeah.
At least 15 years later.
But yeah,
I got a quick story.
Yeah.
So I mentioned MPD. You guys have heard about the land board? I don't have one here, but it's 8 wheels. I don't know if you guys ever saw images of that.
Yes, I know the board that you're talking about now.
Yeah, so that's the MPD land board. Chris Pinsetich, great guy. Him and Lance Knoll, it was Knoll Pinsetich Designs is the MPD. And they lived right near here where I live now. I used to live more in San Jose before I moved to the Santa Cruz Mountains. So this was their home, and they were designing, all-terrain boards, mountain boards. And we hadn't quite linked up yet. So we met at the 1999 Dirtboard Championships at Boreal Ski Resort near Tahoe. And we crossed paths, and they're like, "Oh, okay, you're Don Baker, right?" I was on the cover of their local magazine, their newspaper. And here's the Bay Area version. It was called the Silicon Valley's weekly newspaper, the Metro, and it's got me mountainboarding on the old one. So this publication also produced a Santa Cruz County newspaper similar. And so these guys one day, these guys are starting their mountainboarding company, and they go into town and pick up and someone they don't even know is on the cover, mountainboarding, and they're like, how'd this guy get this, how'd this happen? And that all happened through Extreme Adventures. Their sponsorships hooked me up with the media and all that. So at the competition, they're like, "Oh, we couldn't wait to meet with you. You guys, you got the newspaper." And we ended up, just being the Dirtheads and MPD. We had so many adventures together, and a really great group of guys.
How did those boards ride?
Well, they're more like the XT. They started out as more of an XT company because they actually, most of their 8-wheel boards had XT wheels on them. But then Lance, he was pretty innovative. He ended up getting the little narrow pneumatic tires from like wheelchair, like the little ones or something. Yeah. And he mounted 8 pneumatic tires on his board, and he could ride steep single track stuff really good. And he was actually pretty good at jumping his big airs. I got some vintage photos placed somewhere of him going big at Donner Ski Ranch. And then, so they rode well. They had this weird suspension. It was almost like a caterpillar, like you had traction, but they were moving with the terrain. Yeah. But still contacting. So, very unique.
With all four wheels on each side could move independently, or were the like
other than the axle? But yeah, they could.
So there were 4 axles.
4 axles, and they had some level of suspension and flexibility. Yeah. From each other. Wow. So we had and then I told Chris. I told him, I go, I really think you should just make a 4-wheel pneumatic board, kind of like the Earthboard or just something simple. And they did. And, and they sold some and stuff. So another influence that I had, because, I knew that it's something they could just produce, put out a simple product. They had a cool team of riders, and we had a lot of fun.
Oh, awesome. Slug it. Do you want to get in with a 10 set?
I think
we're coming up for 2 hours now.
I know it's been a bloody good 2 hours, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Right. So I've got 10 questions. Just throw out the first answer. Don't think about it too hard. Goof or reg?
Wait, repeat one more time.
Goof or reg?
Oh, I'm goofy.
Favorite center, past or present?
Oh, Van Skate Park, indoor skate park. I guess it's not a center.
Yeah,
Crack a Ridge for a Mountainboard park course. Epic.
Cracker Ridge.
Freestyle or border cross?
Border cross, although I've won more medals in big air.
Park or free ride?
So park. I like park.
Favorite rider?
Well, and I've looked through some of my past interviews, definitely Dave Seiflotter, is all time my favorite, but boy, AJ Lawson is right. He's close.
Finally.
Yeah.
Thank you, Don. Finally, someone said AJ.
Yeah,
the kid's got so much steam. I can't wait to have him on.
Past, so I wanted to throw AJ out this time.
We're both riders.
It's been more of his comeback. His riding has really just amazing.
We see his lines all the time over here on Instagram, and it's like, and when you scroll down, you're gonna get something good.
Yeah, yeah. So
he's always had that style, though, isn't it? It is like you say. Do it the way you want to do it.
Yeah.
If you're going to do something, and no, he doesn't ride the same as anyone else.
No.
Yet there's something really tantalizingly good about the way he does ride.
He's naturally gifted. I told you about the two type of people.
That's it.
He is truly naturally gifted.
I think you're right.
Happy with that one.
And well done, Dave. Well done, Dave Stiver as well.
Yeah, he's a trooper. Yeah.
Best border cross track.
Oh, well, then that kind of goes back to the Cracker Ridge. That place was so epic. It was like the biggest berms. Wasn't like these small terrain, I heard you guys talking about that center that had like these big berms. Cracker Ridge was all time. There was one berm. It was towards the end. It was called the helicopter berm. Like they had a helicopter pad or something at the top of the berm. But that one was so epic. There was this race there where it was maybe in the quarterfinals, maybe semifinals. It wasn't quite the finals because I was in the consolation round. I got 6th place at that event in the pro. Wes from SoCal, part of the Hooterville crew, he took out Jason Lee, and it was the most epic move I'd ever seen. Jay Lee had a big lead, like half of the berm. He had at least a two or three board lead on Wes, and Jay Lee was doing his smooth low style, right, hitting the berm perfect. So Wes straight lined it from the bottom, hip checked Jay over the top of the berm, and then jumped 180 and went back down. And I just was blown away with that competitive, it was just epic.
You've got to make up the ground. You've got to make up that ground somewhere.
Yeah, it was one of those moments I won't forget in outboard racing history.
Brilliant.
Any others in your 10?
No, I'm done with my 10. I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure as far as I'm concerned. I've literally just been soaking up.
You, Paul.
It's something that me and Dan, we are geeks when it comes to mountain boarding, but you've got the information that we don't have, and now we've got it.
At least my perspective.
It's all coming together from everywhere.
I love to share it. I love to share my story.
That's it. Well, hopefully we can continue to get guests such as yourself who have shared the love for so long, and get a lot of different perspectives on it, so that everybody can.
Yeah, and I'm going to start watching your guys' podcast. I really wanted to go into this not having seen one, so I could just share the best I could.
Well, let me say this to you, Don. If ever you want to come back on, if there's bits you've missed out on, or if when it comes around to Dirtheads 23, we want to stoke the community up and get anything out there, just holler.
I skimmed the surface on the stories.
Exactly.
There's a lot of stories, a lot of years. You can't cram them into 2 hours, can you?
That's it.
No,
it's just impossible.
I jumped a whole bunch. Like the event in Boulder City, which is right outside of Vegas. Oh, just epic time. That day, I was in the pro division. The day before the contest, the practice day, I was riding an MPD board and my foot was hanging over too much on the toe edge, and it would hit the tire every time I hit the first or second berm, and I just tumble. I went down like twice, and then I was done for the day. I'm like, okay, I'm done. And then I switched boards to my Earthboard the next day, and they did the brackets and everything. And one of my rivalries from Tahoe, Jack Driver, who I beat the previous at his course at Boreal, he had me in the first round, and he was so happy. He's like, oh, he was so happy to have me in the bracket. I blew him away, and then I just started going through riders that day. I only lost one heat, and that was to Sayer White, who got first place. But I just went through the field that day. And I mean, I beat Dave. I beat all these Stipeotter. I beat all these people. They're way better riders than me. But on that course, on that day, it just connected. And then we had a blast in Vegas that night. Boy,
I bet. Oh, Don, like I say, I mean, if there's anything, we've done a few shout outs, a few thank yous. We've said that we'd love to have you back on and talk more stories in the future. But on this occasion, thinking of tying it up a little bit here, is there anything that you wanted to say, to put out there, people to thank, or take a few minutes to put your Don Bakers out there?
I'd like to start by just thanking the community and all my friends and stuff, because I had a dream of being some sort of extreme sports athlete, when I was young, and I was making these homemade boards and doing this stuff. And then, then kind of age catches up to you. And I was 32 at my first competition, the 98 Dirt Duel. And so, I really was able to accomplish my dreams, even exceed them, going on the podium and getting first place at national championships multiple times. I never thought I would be able to accomplish that. So, I just want to share with others that if they have dreams and goals, you can accomplish them, absolutely. And just have fun doing it though, because that's really important. If you're not having fun, then it don't matter how many medals or anything that you got. And really, the saying goes, whoever's having the most fun is the winner. Well, then I won everything. Because I don't know anybody that was having more fun than me.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Don, it has been absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for doing what you're doing, and continuing to do it in documenting, keeping hold of the collection, and hopefully and putting it into a museum for us all to adore. I'm sure by then we'll be able to do virtual tours of it, and won't.
Oh yeah.
on Metaverse or whatever next. You'll have to buy digital real estate and put it on there as well.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see you guys in Hawaii.
So keep us all
that would be
posted
awesome.
on dates for that happening. And we'll get the word out as well. And we would love that very much.
I'll share your guys' podcast with all of my connections and stuff too.
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Don,
Absolute pleasure.
It's been great.
All right, nice meeting you guys. You guys are great.
See you
Take it
soon.
easy, man.
Bye
Okay,
now.
cheers.